Do you see AI is taking over a substantial part of the search market?
A small local business, they do a type of testing in Utah. And their competitive advantage over some of the bigger companies in their area is that they were...
The other thing that I think is really interesting when it comes to AI is that ability to...
If you are trying to scale your brand, if you are trying to dominate your local market for leads, whatever the case may be, go to
platforms like Google. How important is YouTube to showing up in search?
If you can get a video to rank well on YouTube, that is a tremendous driver of traffic to your website.
All right, boys and girls, we got John Horn in the house. He's the founder of Stub Group. He's generated over $400 million in revenue for his clients through Google Ads. John, what's up?
Mark, great to be here. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, John, really glad to have you here. Let's get right into it. John, Google Ads, is this still a good place to be running traffic to here in the 2025 range? Why Google Ads?
For many businesses, I'd probably argue for most businesses, it is still a good place to be because that is where your customers are. Google, essentially has a monopoly on search at this point. Most people, if they're going to search for a product, a service, a solution, they are generally speaking going to Google to search for that. And so you got to be where your customers are. So for most businesses out there, it is an effective way of acquiring traffic. Now, cost effective, that is always the $1 million question. Can you get that traffic profitably? And I'm sure we'll dig into that as part of the conversation, but it's definitely a competitive landscape these days.
So I want to push back a little bit on the idea that Google is a monopoly. Just a year ago, if my kids ever had a question I didn't know the answer to, they would say, Google it. We don't say that anymore. We say, ask ChatGPT. So do you see AI is taking over a substantial part of the search market?
I do see that coming. So currently there's different estimates. I think the last estimate I saw as far as like ChatGPT's market share of search was somewhere in the 4 or 5% range, something like that, which doesn't sound super high, but compared to zero, a couple of years ago, that's massive increase. And so if they continue to increase at the current rate, absolutely. Things like ChatGPT, Perplexity, Claude, the LLMs that are inputting or incorporating search into their features, they are definitely going to give Google a run for their money. The big question is, can Google fight back through things like Gemini and their own AI overviews and whatnot? So right now, they're still, from a percentage standpoint, where people are going, but that could very much change over time with these new competitors in the marketplace.
I think it's perhaps one of the most fascinating or important changes that we're going to be seeing in human behavior over the coming, we'll call it 12 to 8 months. I'm going to put it out there, within 12 months, I think that Google search volume is going to be way down because people are going to be using AI for questions and answers. It's one thing, and by the way, internet search through ChatGPT is really new. I mean, they had the browser extension, but now what I can do if I'm preparing for an episode for the show, or if I'm preparing for a new client, anything like that, if I'm looking at data, I can say, hey, ChatGPT, what do you help me out on topic X, make sure that you cite references, and it's going to give me links to all these different websites all across the web.
100%. I think the big question in my mind is at what rate will, I'm going to say, the average consumer adopt these things? Because there's, early adopters like you and me who, are looking to be on the cutting edge of things. We're super aware of it, super aware of how powerful it is. And I've definitely, like you mentioned, seeing your search behavior changed, mine has as well. I often go now to ChatGPT or something similar to start a search. I think, however, that the average consumer is going to take some time before that happens because they're out there living life, not really worried about what's the latest and greatest in AI and LLMs and whatnot. And Google has such a stranglehold on everything with not just search, but with Google Maps, with Gmail, with their entire ecosystem that keeps people within Google. I think it will take some time for that average consumer to make the switch. But like you said, this is one, I think, the most fascinating times in user behavior in the recent history for sure. And I think it is the first time in a long time that Google's dominance has a very real threat, is probably the best way to put it.
Gary Vee is always talking about day trading attention. And I think it is important as business owners not to romanticize what has worked in the past, because that's where you run into problems with return on ad spend. You get your really great return on ad spend when you're on the next big thing, or you're on the cusp of something new, or you have an innovative type of idea. And I don't know exactly what that means for Google. and Google search. Obviously, Google it is still a pretty popular term. But to your point, where's that return on ad spend at? And, quite frankly, we were talking about this a little bit before we hit record. Google landscape, very, very competitive. Like showing at the top of Google is more expensive now than it was 5-10 years ago. But if less people are running Google ads because the ad traffic goes somewhere else, that could flip, that could shift as well.
Yes, I would say the way I think about Google right now, Google is a very mature platform. Like you said, where you see kind of the amazing efficiency and return on ad spend is generally on new platforms where not everyone has adopted it yet. And so there's this arbitrage between, hey, there's a lot of people using it, not as many advertisers on there, and that's where you can see incredible ROAS. Google's really not there. Google's very mature. Everybody, all the advertisers know, okay, that's where people are. What Google has is scale, which is the things that the newer platforms look to achieve. So because so many people still go to Google, if you are trying to scale your brand, if you are trying to dominate your local market for leads, whatever the case may be, Google is still probably where most people are going. And so if you want to really scale your business and your audience, Google, and when I say Google too, I'm also including Google, YouTube, for example, owned by Google, which I know you spend a tremendous amount of time on. YouTube, both as a search engine and as a discovery engine, is incredibly powerful for reaching people. So is it cheap? No, but the scale is there, and that's where it comes down to. If you can figure out how to run really efficient campaigns and be smart about it and kind of find those edges that your competitors aren't, that's where you can generate enough ROAS, enough profit for it to make sense, and then be able to scale the volume that you're driving.
There's so much data there, but to kind of go into the data, understanding that data is where you can find those edges. I'm curious, have you used ChatGPT or AI to review any of the data listings from any of the ad campaigns you've been running?
Yeah, absolutely. We'll run data through there and look for insights. Get its help in charting things out, creating just doing a lot of that manual work that we would have been doing in Excel or something previously. So it can be very useful at that. Obviously, you always have to double check the work because sometimes things go a little weird, and there is that hallucination that can happen. So you got to watch out for that. But it's a great tool or assistant for your analysis.
Yeah, I agree. And hallucinations, I'm seeing less of them. With as more iterations of these AI tools come out, as you're using larger data sets, then it becomes better. But I got to say, I think this is one of the best arbitrages to get time back is taking complicated data sets, CSV files, spreadsheets, charts, graphs, uploading all of those images and documents into a program like ChatGPT. The results you get back are ridiculous.
Yeah, it's just like, oh, okay, that saved me 5 hours. That's awesome. Now let me go execute on this. 100% agreed.
It's ridiculous. And what I've seen, and kind of the way I see it playing out, at least here in the near future, is that, and probably long term as well, is that these AI tools, speaking about ChatGPT specifically, because that's where I spend the majority of my time and that's where I'm doing the most of my training. AI is going to make beginners proficient, and it's going to make experts efficient. So because that's the problem here, right? So if I don't know nothing, let's say I know nothing about Google Ads, I can use ChatGPT and I can become pretty dangerous, but I'm not going to see those edges. I'm not going to know where it messes up. If you're an expert though, you can quickly kind of see oh, that number doesn't line up. I ran a $100 million campaign for John Smith Inc. This is not what I saw there. So where's the disconnect?
No, I think that's a great way to put it. Because like you said, there are some limitations in kind of those edge areas, those areas that make people overperform that generally speaking, something like ChatGPT is not going to be aware of. But for those top performers who understand how to validate that data and kind of what to look for, it can save so much time in the analysis, in putting things together, and just giving a bunch of ideas that you can pull from for campaigns or ads or keywords. It can just, like you said, make it more efficient as a process.
Honestly, it's unbelievable the impact that one word can have on getting someone to click. Have you noticed this before? Because I'll give you a quick example. I had a YouTube video that I posted a few years ago. It was about hiring your first virtual assistant. And when I first released the video, it didn't do that well. It was, got, hundreds of views, maybe dozens of views, which, by the way, I find to be pretty typical with videos that I post. Might not crush it at first, but we go in, we change up the title a little bit. And in this case, I changed up the title a little bit. I don't even think I changed the thumbnail. I believe I just changed the title. Came back the next day and it was like 50,000 views. I was like, what?
That's wild.
It was like one or two words.
Uh-huh.
And
Yeah, 100%. I mean, that can have a massive impact. Something as simple as, do you call what you're doing an audit versus an evaluation versus a consultation, et cetera, et cetera. Because, words, ultimately, they have emotional impact on people, and they tap into, preconceived notions, understandings, and they also tap into how people search for things. So from an algorithmic perspective as well, one word versus another can get you a different type of traffic. From a human perspective, saying one thing versus another thing is going to create potentially a different emotional response, and then extrapolate that across the scale of the number of people who could find that on YouTube as an example. And yeah, you can go from that 1K to 50K in a day. It's kind of wild, the opportunities.
no doubt. I think to the date, that video is at like 650,000 views. It's like a 15-minute video. Been driving affiliate revenue for me. So thank you, YouTube, and the whole affiliate marketplace. But, the other thing, in addition to the psychological impact, which agreed, very important, search volume, keywords, also very important. There's certain words that can get you flagged. In the email landscape, using words like free, for example, in your subject line, Google's going to say, like, oh, free, this is a promotional email. This is a spam email, which, by the way, if you're listening to this podcast right now, there's a very good chance that your emails are going to people's spam boxes right now. My friends, that is the kiss of death. You're spending all this time and all this money trying to reach people, and you're reaching nobody because there's just a couple things that maybe you're doing wrong they're completely killing your ability to communicate.
Absolutely. And that's very much true in the Google Ads landscape as well, where as a company, we spend a ton of time in the compliance side of things. So working with advertisers who want to be compliant with Google's policies. And Google has very vague policies, and they often don't enforce those policies consistently. And so all the time, constantly, we are being reached out to by businesses who are saying, hey, Google has disapproved my ads, or they've completely suspended my account. They're not letting me advertise. This is, crushing my business because a lot of our business comes from Google, and we've got to fix this ASAP. And so we'll come alongside of them and look to identify anything from, trigger keywords where we know Google doesn't like this in ad copy or websites, to, missing things on their websites, to just stuff they're like, I had no idea that was a Google policy. And I wasn't trying to do anything malicious. I wasn't trying to scam people or anything. I just, did this thing that apparently Google doesn't like. And now I'm in Google jail. And so we spend a lot of time working with advertisers, getting them out of Google jail and getting them back to a place where they can actually run their campaigns and drive results.
And this kind of circles back to my point a moment ago, in that, if you're just using ChatGPT or AI to build out your campaigns, it might not have that nuance to understand, okay, this is the specific word. Sometimes it does. I was trying to fix a problem inside my high level account. I don't even remember what the exact problem was, but I was like trying to find the right button, and I couldn't get the answer. I was like I just couldn't get the answer through their help desk. So I went to ChatGPT and said, hey, this is what I'm trying to do. This is a program I'm using it. It gave me step-by-step instructions on how to fix that problem.
Yes, that's most of the time nowadays when I'm trying to figure out something about, a platform or something I'm using, I'll go to ChatGPT first rather than go into their help articles, and it's so much faster. ChatGPT is like, okay, here it is. And here's a link to the one article that's actually relevant. And it's like, awesome. I don't need to spend my time searching Google for that. Just get the answer, get in, get out. And that's probably my top use case actually at the moment for ChatGPT, is just looking up stuff like that.
It's insane. And what is really insane to me, John, the amount of people that aren't actually leveraging these types of tools to optimize performance, or even to go from 0 to 1 or 0 to 7. It continuously shocks me. I was speaking at the Parkland Chamber the other day, and like the amount of people that were just like looking at me like I had two heads. I was like, this is kind of like fundamental to your success and your growth. It's just crazy. I have a question for you here, John, as well, because it's my show, guys. I get to ask what I want. So, what impact do you see YouTube having on search and on ranking on platforms like Google? How important is YouTube to showing up in search?
Great question. So what I've seen is a lot of successful sites right now are kind of viewing YouTube as its own platform. And what I mean by that is if you can get a video to rank well on YouTube, that is a tremendous driver of traffic to your website. We've seen this ourselves at Stub Group. We have videos like, for example, talking about Google suspension issues where, Google likes to rank YouTube videos high on just the normal search engine results page. And that can be a tremendous boost to traffic coming to your website. From a ranking perspective, I do also believe, and from the SEO experts I've spoken with, that there's definitely a significant benefit to having good YouTube videos that are linking to your website. That's a ranking factor, a signal that Google has. Okay, you've got helpful content. People are coming from YouTube to your website, etc. I can't tell you, percentage-wise how big of an impact that is because there's too much unknowns there. But that is something that I recommend to a lot of businesses, which is, hey, if you are looking to, rank your website organically and just get more traffic in general, what can you do on YouTube? Can you craft videos that are relevant to your local area, if you're a local business, so that people, when they're searching locally, they're going to see, oh, you're a dentist, you've got helpful content on there, you're ranking now, orthodontist near me, people are going to go watch that, get to your website, and that can be a way to kind of shortcut just the normal, okay, I'm going to try and get this page on my website to rank for these keywords, going to do all the normal stuff. YouTube can really shortcut that process from what I've seen.
Dig that. So you've done over $400 million in revenue for companies using Google Ads. Is there like a particular starting off point in your budget that you need to have, because one of the problems I think people run into is, they throw $10 at something, $20, $50, and like, that didn't work. It just doesn't work for me. Might work for everybody else. It just doesn't work for me. What's like the minimum engagement that you need to actually see a result with Google Ads?
That's a great question. One of the most common questions we get asked when businesses reach out to us. And we look at that in terms of how much data do we need to collect to be able to optimize and say, this is working well, this isn't, here's how we can improve over time. And so that the amount of data that we need to collect is going to be impacted by budget, but it's going to be different for each business. So if you are, let's say, a local business, you're going after a limited geographic area, you might be able to say, hey, let's spend $2,000 a month, and that might be enough based upon the cost per clicks in that area for us to generate enough data to A, drive initial results, and B, okay, see these keywords, these ads are working, these aren't. Whereas, if you're a direct-to-consumer clothing brand and you're saying, I want to go nationwide and sell this particular type of clothing, 2,000 might be just a drop in the bucket because it's just too large of an audience that you're going after to be able to collect, statistically significant data from that. So we might say 10,000 or 20,000, 50,000, whatever the case may be. So we really look at it as how much are clicks going to cost, how large of an area are you targeting, and how much do we need to spend to get enough data, again, to be able to start making good decisions. I would say just, because everyone likes numbers, I would say, generally speaking, for most businesses, we don't recommend starting with less than a $2,000 monthly budget. There are exceptions to that. We have clients right now spending, $950 a month and doing really well because they're in a small geographic area. They've got limited competition and we're crushing it for them. But for most businesses, I'd say think $2K and up in terms of monthly budget allocation.
Was there ever a time where you brought in a new client, ran an ad campaign, and just completely shocked you, the results? Can you tell me about a time that you were really shocked by Google ad results?
Yeah. And those are my favorite experiences. I'll actually so I just mentioned, clients spending like $950 a month. They're actually one of those examples. So when I was thinking of, they're a small local business. They do a type of testing in Utah. And their competitive advantage over some of the bigger companies in their area is that they were getting out very quickly to help with people. And so we ran campaigns, still run campaigns, where we focused on that speed, where ad copy is, hey, call right now, we'll get out there tomorrow. And we even put in the ad copy the name of the office manager. So call Ashley, I think it was, or whatever her name is, call Ashley. And so you've got these ads that are, I'm going to get help right now, and there's a personal aspect running versus kind of the bigger boys of just, the normal boilerplate, oh, we're a great business, we'll get to you, etc. And even though it's minimal ad spend relative to most companies, they've been crushing it. Lots and lots of leads coming through. They even paused for a while because they had so many leads coming through that they needed some time to catch up. And even though it's a small company, it's just really fun to see the ability to move the needle and really see a measurable impact on their company and their ability to hire people and to grow as a company has been really cool.
Good problems to have when you got to pause a campaign because you've got too many leads coming in. Are you seeing anyone leveraging AI as a way to quickly engage leads coming in to say, hey, because speed kills. Like in a lifetime ago, I was in the insurance industry, and when you saw the data between someone saying, give me a quote, you had seconds, like every second that dropped off that you weren't responding to them, they were going to the competitor. So that's one of the things that's fascinating to me is how we can leverage AI to quickly engage so we can close that mental loop. Are you seeing anyone leveraging AI as a way of quickly engaging ad responders?
One cool example that's literally being rolled out like this week as we speak is one of our more sophisticated clients. Their call center, they have call centers, a lot of calls coming inbound, and then form submissions as well. People filling out forms and where they need to get on the phone with those people. And so they are in the process right now of testing an AI solution that initiates a call when someone fills out a form. So it's, the AI is trying to get that person on the phone, and then it's using AI powered voice to have the initial conversation and essentially qualify the lead. Be like, hey, what are you paying for this right now? What's your zip code? Oh, hey, we've got great offers and solutions for you. Can I connect you to a live agent? And so they are, going to be leveraging AI to basically go from form submission to now a warm transfer of a lead to a live agent in their call center who will already have some information collected about what this person, what their pain points are, what they're looking for, and then they can, close the sale. So really, really excited to see how that performs.
I got to say, call centers are basically dead at this point. You could probably gut 80%, 90% of the people in your call center because you can, like you said, have AI do voice reading. And the other thing that I think is really interesting when it comes to AI is that ability to read form responses. Because, when people type in responses to forms, they could be anywhere. You don't need to be multiple choice anymore. I'll give you a perfect example. In preparing, so I have what I consider to be one of the more sophisticated podcast production agencies. And when you fill out a calendar request to be on my show, you answer miscellaneous questions about you, about your business, your vision, income generation. And what I do, and this is all automated, by the way, it sends all those custom answers to an AI program that reviews them and kind of says, this is how you might want to intro the guest. And it gives me a list of 13 potential questions to ask. Thankfully I've been doing this for a long time. So I've got that on lock, but it's only like, I'll give you an example. Just based on the questions that you put in, the answers you put in there, this is one of the questions that it recommends I ask John. You often talk about why most PPC campaigns fail. Can you share some common pitfalls that businesses encounter and how they can avoid them? It's a pretty good question.
That's a good question. That I've been asked that question on other podcasts. It's 100%, in line with, the type of question that should be asked.
Yeah, I mean, and there's a bunch of these. There's a bunch of them. Here, StubHub or Stub Group is known for its personalized boutique approach. How does this strategy contribute to sustainable growth for your clients? So again, just dozens of these types of questions, so I can come in prepared. But in the sales process, you kind of take those questions and get people locked in. And then what I've seen in the marketing world is like the number one thing if someone fills out a form is I want to make sure I have your name, your email and your phone number. Mm-hmm. And so I've seen chatbots on the website that they'll answer frequently asked questions. They've been trained on frequently asked questions, but their goal is always give me your contact info.
Yep, that's where the value is. Get that direct relationship, and the beauty, of course, that direct relationship is then you can also move beyond platforms like Google and have some direct ownership as long as like you mentioned earlier, how to get past the spam filters and actually share helpful content and nurture that audience.
I think it's perhaps one of the most important things because it's a lot of people might say no, but no doesn't mean I'm not buying. It means not now. So finding ways to nurture that relationship, that again, one of the reasons why having newsletter, YouTube channel, podcast, stuff like this to keep showing up is important. But I could nerd out all day on this stuff. The world is changing so dramatically fast. Y'all, you got to connect with John over at Stub Group. I got to let John go though, because his team is growing and he's got to interview a new team member. So I got to be respectful of John and his new team member. John, thanks for joining in the After Hours Entrepreneur today.
Mark, thank you so much for having me. Really enjoyed it.